Please don't remind me of the literacy rates of recent graduates. I don't believe this. I feel like it's pretty misleading when we talk about literacy rates and what we're talking about is like reading comprehension scores that we don't have like sufficient data for recent graduates, and where like the data is skewed for any number of reasons, and like the people who study this and collected that data don't encourage us to use it that way, but then news sites, because it's like it gets a lot of clicks, they say like literacy rates are low among graduates, kids don't know how to read anymore. I don't know, man. Whenever someone says something about like, oh, the kids don't have attention spans anymore, the kids don't know how to listen, how to read, the kids don't understand anything anymore, I just hear like old man shakes stick at clouds. This has always been how people talked about the young generation. I remember when I was a kid, people would say it was because like, oh, the kids are watching SpongeBob and it's destroyed their attention spans. And now they don't know how to count to 10 and they're bad at school and they're all stupid, right? Those darn kids out there reading books, they should be in the field with their families. No, but seriously, novels. When novels first were like a thing that became popular, people had concerns about like, are people reading too many novels? Are kids reading too many novels? Are women reading too many novels and it's making them soft and stupid and too prone to fits of fancy? And that's why there's depression now, you know? I do not believe that kids' brains are being ruined and that kids have low literacy rates. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It wasn't we can't have women learning. Is it making women uppity? Not like women are learning too much and is that making them uppity, but is reading novels as an alternative to reading the Bible, ruining our morals? And also, are women reading these romance novels and getting these big unmatchable ideas, and then they won't date real men, and there's a male loneliness epidemic? That's another interesting thing. Listen, I'm not saying that people aren't lonely right now. They clearly are. But I am saying that if you go back and read, there are tons of examples of people claiming there's a male loneliness epidemic forever. People claiming that like, oh, girls don't want men now and men are all alone and it's making them weird. That's been going on like forever. People have been writing about that as long as people have been writing about anything, right? So as long as people have been writing about how the kids are stupid now. So yeah, the girls are too picky and the kids are stupid has been a thing that people say forever. It just seems to be a loneliness epidemic for everyone these days, not just men. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to believe that it is harder for men. One thing that I observed when I was in school was that as a girl, I think it's way easier for me to sit down at a random lunch table and make friends with the people there. People aren't scared of me, they don't think I have weird intentions. They might make fun of me as someone weird, but they're not gonna think of me as someone creepy, right? I think that there is some advantage in getting to know a group of people. It's sort of a status thing. Huh? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means in this context. Do you think girls have inherently higher social status? Because no, they do not. No, they do not. But, okay, if I sit down at a lunch table of guys, they don't assume that I'm like hitting on them if I'm a girl and I'm a stranger. But if I sit down at a lunch table of girls as a guy, they probably will assume that I am hitting on them, because we assume that it's the job of guys to approach girls, which is pretty stressful. And I don't think it necessarily should be on just them. I don't know if you guys know this, but as recently as like the 19 teens, the social expectation was that a man would absolutely not ask a girl out. A girl would ask a man over to her home, and that was where courtship took place. Courtship took place in the home, and it was something that a girl had to invite a man to do. And there were even in men's magazines of the time, there are questions like, what if I really like a girl and I think she likes me too, but I don't know for sure, and she hasn't asked me to her place. Is it okay in that case for me to ask her if I can come over? And they're like, no. If you really want to, you can tell some of her friends that maybe you're interested, and then maybe they'll tell her, and then maybe she'll ask you out. But don't be a girl about it. Don't be a girl and ask someone out, right? So I think it's really, really interesting. There was a joke that was considered really, really funny in the 1920s that went like, the country man arrives at the woman's house expecting to be served dinner, and she's already putting on her bonnet, and the idea was like, oh, because a city girl, because things, you know, often reach the cities faster, a city girl would assume that they're gonna go out to eat, but the country boy assumes that he's gonna be invited in for their date with her family, because most unmarried women of the time lived with their families, right? And that was where a lot of courtship took place, right? Yeah, there's nothing inherently biological about our assumption that men court and women are courted. And it's worked differently even in our own society, even in America, as recently as the 19-teens. Also, unmarried women had to get married if they were pregnant. I mean, yes and no. There was a lot of social stigma if they didn't, but they didn't have to. There were single unmarried women. That was a thing that happened. You know, it's not like it was an impossibility. You can't control if your husband leaves you, right? So single unmarried women had to get married is kind of an interesting thing to say, especially in a time with higher mortality rates in the workplace, right? No one is gonna be mean to a woman with no man in the picture. Yeah, or if he died, exactly. Like, that's kind of my point, right? And you can't stop him from leaving, right? People can just leave. It's not like you could track people down, especially not at that time. So there were all kinds of people living outside of the expectations of society. Always. A widow, unmarried? What I mean is single, right? It's not like there weren't women making it on their own with children at every point in time. That's always a situation that's existed. And just the way that there are people who exist outside of our cultural expectations now, there were then. So even if there were stricter cultural expectations, thinking that that means that there was no woman who spent her life unmarried, there was no woman who, you know, had a kid outside of wedlock, these things were not uncommon, right? It was maybe even more common since wars and diseases were constant. Hey, wars and diseases are still pretty constant. They're still pretty constant. It's not like we got rid of those. But yeah, oh, you hear about male loneliness and get awkward. That's hard. That's hard. Man, yeah, I totally get that. I think that there is something that just like makes us all a little bit more stiff and awkward about feeling like we ought to be. There's time for a reason for us to be. Everyone expects us to be. I'm not saying, I do think that there is a way that it's easier for girls to integrate themselves socially with new groups. I think that that is totally possible. However, I can say, as much as it's easier to get integrated into a new group, your position there is not inherently more stable as a girl, I think. And this could be just my experience, but my experience is that if you start a dude-heavy hobby, especially at younger ages, I feel like at older ages, more people are coupled up and this happens less, but if you start like a dude-heavy hobby, people will get close to you really fast because they're like, ooh, a girl. And then if you don't return that, and you're just like, oh, I would like to be friends. Oftentimes at first they'll be like, yes, I would also like to be friends. And then much later they'll be like, I can't believe you've done this to me. All this time I was your friend and you never even kissed me about it. And you're like, man, I told you. I told you, you know? I think that there are ways that it is easier to integrate yourself into a group of people as a girl. And I think that it is harder as a guy. You do cosplay and get to know a lot of girls from there. They shared a lot of weird things they encountered online. Sadly, there are a lot of weird people out there. Yeah. I mean, there surely are. There are weird girls online too, but I think it's harder for guys to just like make friends in public by approaching random people for the purpose of friendship, because there's kind of an assumption that they might be hitting on you. And I think that that's sad. And I also think that like girls approach other girls more for friendship. Maybe because it's easier and they're less likely to be misunderstood. But as a girl, I don't really approach people for friendship very often. I'm kind of shy, especially in public. But girls do sometimes approach me for friendship, right? Like when I was doing yoga, I just kind of started getting invited out by this group of girls who also did yoga there. And I think that that can happen for guys, but I think it's less common. I think it's just kind of less likely to happen. And so I think it is harder for guys to just make friends out in the wild, but I don't know.